Welcome to the Mick, a Mook, and a Mike. Hosted by four-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Mace and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest, actor Matthew Laurance.
My brother
Frankie. How you doing, pal?
Good. How the fuck are you doing?
Looking good. Nice and slimmed down in the black. You
Yep.
know?
Yep. Our guest today is another man who slimmed down in black, Matthew Laurance. Eddie,
I love those four segues. They're the best.
Eddie in the Cruisers, 902 Beverly Hills 90210. Fine actor. He'll be and a great guest. He'll be we were nice for us to revisit with Matthew again. But before we go to Matthew, how was your Halloween? You got any Halloween stories?
I dress up as a live person nowadays. I try to dress up as somebody who's still walking upright, you know? What do they call it? Homo erectus.
Homo erectus.
I dressed up as Homo erectus.
That is Derek Harris, who's
pushing me around.
Who's only done this for Billy? Who's only done this for 171 times? He's repositioning Billy.
I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Oh Jesus
Thank you.
Christ! Excuse me. I think I'm starting. He just gave me a huge compliment because I didn't pull out any wires as I was walking over him. I'm starting to think like they should be leading me around by the hand.
Yeah, now he's gonna get.
Oh Jesus! Anything else, Ron? Right here.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh shit! You slobbered all over your shirt.
I'll cut that out, but
No, you don't have to cut it out.
I don't have to cut it out.
That's part of his charm.
I'm a river to my people.
oh my God.
I'm a river.
Yeah. So did that give you enough time to think of a Halloween story?
You want a Halloween story?
Sure, if you got one out of your glorious past. Why'd you leave it on the table? Put it in your. Put it.
Fix my golf swing. Oh, it's this end. Put this up. So you want a Halloween story?
Yeah, sure.
Let me see what I can think of Halloween story.
Out of your illustrious past.
Wait, so do you had a Halloween back in New York?
Do we have Halloween?
Yeah.
What was Halloween? You got burnt cork, put it on your mouth, and say, "I'm a bum."
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what you did when you were a kid in New York in the Bronx growing up. I mean, Halloween was like
you were a hobo.
Legalized shakedown. You know?
What do you mean?
I mean, because that was the deal. If you were a kid, I mean, nobody ever bought me candy. Nobody when I was a kid. My parents didn't have any money for that shit. So it was a big deal to go out and get a bag full of candy, and somebody took 2 or 3 cents in every apartment you went to. And of course, in the Bronx, growing up, it was all tenements and H-type buildings and, apartment buildings. So you could go 2 blocks and hit 300 doors.
Yeah.
So it was much better than in the suburbs where parents got to drive around. Nobody drove us around to get anything. We just did everything in the streets. But I remember going to one woman's house. I guess I was about 8 years old. And again, like you said, the hobo. I mean, you had no money to buy costumes. No. We didn't do that shit. So what we did, we just burnt the cork, put it on your face, throw your old man's hat on. Everybody wore a fedora in the 50s, right? Every man. Yep. Nobody was dressed when they walked out of the house without a fedora. So I put the old man's fedora on, cork up. So I go to this one woman's house. I knock on the door, and she goes, "Oh, Marty," she says to her husband, come here, look at this kid's outfit." She goes, "This is the outfits I like." She goes, these are the costumes I like, not those handmade, the board costumes." I'm thinking to myself, she's making a big deal about it. I put some cork on my face and I got my old man's hat on. And she goes, look how his sneakers. Look, you see how he's got tape around his sneakers, tape on the bottom to him? And look, he's got patches all over his dungarees. These are my regular clothes. I said, what? I took the candy, but I was kind of insulted as I walked away. It was like she thought I was dressed up. This was it.
In those days, they gave us real candy.
That was a sad story.
They gave...
What do you say? It was a sad story?
They gave you the real candy bars. The candy bars were about this.
Yeah.
Candy bars were about this size. Now you fucking get. You get this size candy bar.
You ever believe this? A Hollywood producer was out there trick-or-treating and bitching about the size of the candies.
Not me.
Not me.
Because now You got to go through all the candy to make sure there's not a razor blade in them.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
But remember, we had the same thing. Our parents would say, "Well, watch out, because somebody could put a razor blade. How the fuck can they unwrap candy, put a razor blade in, and then rewrap it perfectly and get a razor blade?"
Perfect. Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's like they did in Vietnam when we were over there. We wanted to buy pot. I swear to God, the Thais would take a pack of Marlboro,
Right.
and they'd go in for the bottom of the pack. Like they'd open up the plastic, slide out the pack, then unseal the bottom of the pack of cigarettes, take all the cigarettes out, take all the tobacco out, and fill it full of pot.
Mm-hmm.
Put them all back in, put the plastic on, everything else. It was $2 in the store for 20 joints. And guys, you just smoking, look like you were smoking cigarettes. You smell, of course, you'd be smoking pot. And they roll them all up for you, put them, it was amazing. $2. Just like the guy at Halloween. That was my segue. Just like the guy at Halloween who put the razor. I think it was those bloody Asians. They were the ones who were doing it. They were putting the razor.
Bloody Asians.
The bloody Asians were doing it. They were the only ones who knew how.
Well,
That turned out to be very false, by the way.
What false? What happened?
The razor blades and the apples and the
no
yeah,
kidding.
yeah. I mean, it actually happened, but it happened in a small community, and they were doing it to each other, not to the. It wasn't happening to the world.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Is that the same community where they're eating the dogs and the cats? I'm just wondering. Maybe it's that same mythical place, like Brigadoon or something,
Did you know Halloween? The origin? It originated in your part of the world.
the Irish.
Yeah.
And
Celts.
the Celts. Yeah, that was. I guess it was pretty much.
He doesn't know. Tell him.
Yeah.
It's the trace back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain.
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah.
Sam Hain.
Yeah.
Who is Sam?
Which was a pagan celebration to mark the end of summer and the beginning of winter.
I knew it had something to do with the seasons.
What about fall?
You
What
don't
the
care
fuck
about
happened to fall? I want autumn.
Adam.
I want autumn.
Adam.
I do actually want autumn, but that's another story.
Is that your favorite season,
You?
Frank?
Frank?
No,
Favorite
It
season?
was my favorite girlfriend in high school.
Ooh.
Little touch pee-pee involved in it?
No, touch baby.
Back in high school days?
No.
No? Everything on the level, huh?
Everything on the level.
Uh-huh.
Not that my wife's even going to listen to this, but
Just in case.
everything was on the level.
Just in case.
Just like you. Everything was before. Everything was
That's right. I'm an innocent man now.
BG, before Ginny.
Before Jenny. That's right.
Well, with that, TJ Summers, rest in peace, won his lawsuit against the Los Angeles Times. So fuck the Los Angeles
Get
Times.
out of here.
Posthumously, yeah?
Yep.
Dude,
He was awarded. I don't know how much money was awarded, but
Yeah.
it was more than $1 million and maybe more than $10 million.
Right.
Wow.
And they
So-
basically, well, I shouldn't.
No.
I feel like they basically killed him.
Well, they contributed to it.
Yeah.
They contributed
Wow.
to it.
Yeah.
So good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him.
Congratulations.
Good for his
man.
family. I mean, not
Yeah.
good for him. It's
Wow.
good for his family. That's great.
But
Wow.
now let's get on to comedy. How about we bring on Matthew Laurance?
We've all lost a few friends over the years. Now let's get out and have a couple of laughs.
I hope we're going to lose an orange. I hope we're going to lose an orange friend soon. But let's get on to Matthew Laurance. Can you bring Matthew on, Derek?
Is Matthew coming on today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
That's why we introduced today's guest will be Matthew Laurance.
I didn't hear that part, but okay, I'll see if I can get him on.
Oh my Lord!
That's great. He's a talented man. See if you get Marlon Brando on the phone for me. He's dead, but see what you can do.
Derek, can you bring in our friend Matthew Laurance?
Matthew Laurance.
There he is.
here.
Matty Milan, how are you, buddy? Good seeing you again, buddy.
My two favorite guys in the world,
So which
right there,
which
there.
which of us three should be offended? Just say it's me.
Nice opening line there, Matty. You can start a fight in an empty room.
Say it's me.
It's great to see you guys.
Good seeing you too, buddy.
Great. So we can see the lifesaver you're sucking on and everything every time you talk.
I'll just tell you right now, Frank,
Yes.
because you're a producer and a big shot. my throat, I don't know if you know this, but I'm in Kentucky, and it's the state with the highest percentage of allergies, among many other things. And my throat's a little weird. So I'm just doing this. So, I want to be good on, this is my favorite podcast. And if I don't do well, I'll never forgive myself, ever.
Well,
don't put yourself out in a ledge or nothing like that. It's going to be okay,
So Matthew, let me ask you, you've done a lot of stuff in your career, lots. Do you have a favorite project?
I would say Eddie and the Cruisers, probably, because, we all actors want to be sports guys, and all sports guys want to be actors. And I've always said this, when I started acting, there were two things I wanted to do. I wanted to either play center field in Yankee Stadium or play in Madison Square Garden for the Knicks in a movie. And I wanted to be able to be a rock and roll star. And I got to do one of those two things. And that experience of doing Eddie and the Cruisers and learning how to play the bass guitar, and for 8 weeks or so, even though we weren't, we thought we were a rock and roll band and lived that life. And it's a miracle we all got through it. But I would say that was my favorite thing that I've done as an actor.
Now, when you were doing Eddie and the Cruisers, you said you had to learn the bass just for the part. Did any of the other guys, Tom Berenger, or any of those other guys have any experience playing music? Or they just...
No. And boy, does it show. Marty Davidson did a great job of keeping the cuts of Michael, who played Eddie, to where you couldn't see him with the guitar. Berenger couldn't do it. The same thing. It was easier for him because he was behind a piano, so he would move around and stuff. David Wilson, who played the drums, learned how to play the drums. He actually was really good.
Wow.
And I learned, I think there were 10 songs, but I had a musical background. I played tenor sax growing up for a few years. And I know Frank will love this, I played the accordion for a long time.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, well, because it's a big chick thing. Chicks dig the accordion. I don't know if you realize it. And that's why my brother Mitchie and I started when we were 8 or 9. And right away I said to my parents, I want to play the accordion because chicks dig it. And so they said, okay. But that learning to play the bass, Southside Johnny taught me how to play the bass. And that whole thing was unreal. It was fantastic.
Can you still play the bass?
I don't know. It's been years. I bet I could. I want to say when I was going through, actors have a tough time. We struggle sometimes. I don't know if you know that,
No,
Frank.
I haven't heard that at all.
You big shot producers always have money, and actors sometimes have to do what you can. I think I want to say I hocked my bass a couple of years after we did it to get some money. That's probably what happened. But I haven't played in a long time. It's not a bad idea, Frank. I actually think maybe I'll go get a bass and start playing again because I loved it.
You go busking. You go to busking in the subways. You know what I mean, Matty? You go back to New York.
Yeah. That's good. And Billy, there's a great subway system here in Kentucky. I don't know if you've heard of it. Fantastic.
Well, if you go busking, Billy will be your monkey.
Yeah, I'll be your monkey. You gotta even get the little hat with the cup. I'll do the whole deal for you.
You can use one of those cups.
Let me ask you, Matty, when you were doing the thing,
Get some water, quick.
Yeah, see?
He swallowed his
I just
lifesaver.
forgot the question I was going to ask.
Oh shit! Oh my
I
god!
just had a senior moment.
Well, what question you were going to ask?
I just forgot. That's what I'm just saying. I just forgot the question I was going to ask.
I have a question which will make you remember. So
Yeah.
the reason why you were able to play the bass and look like you were a musician was because you're intellectually superior to the other actors. Is that accurate?
1,000%. And, thank God there's somebody there that recognizes that.
That's
Out of the three of you, I'm glad there's one that recognizes
Billy's
that.
got it. He's got
Now
it.
I
He
remember the
remembers.
question. Now I remember the question I wanted to ask.
I knew you would.
So Southside Johnny taught you the bass. Was it filmed any place in New Jersey in Asbury Park? Is that where you guys were?
Yeah, we filmed at different places in Jersey. And the funny thing is, we shot in Ocean City a lot. We did all the college stuff was actually, I want to say at Haverford College, which is outside Philadelphia. But a lot of our stuff was done, all the Tony Mark stuff was done on the Jersey Shore. Actually, it's not there anymore, but used to be Tony Mark's, which is everybody that ever went to the Jersey Shore knew about Tony Mark's. It was actually a pretty famous place. And Billy, you'll love this. I'm still in New Jersey. I'm still a hero from that movie because I said the line, "We ain't great. We're just some guys from Jersey." And people, it's 40 years ago, that movie. It's hard to believe. But I still get people, excuse me, there goes my throat. I still get people when they meet me or they're Eddie and the Cruisers fans, they, especially from Jersey, they go, "Hey, Sal, I'm from Jersey." It's like, oh, yeah. It's unbelievable.
I thought when Springsteen sings Jersey Girl at a concert, the place absolutely goes nuts. Every woman in the place is from Jersey goes bananas.
Yep.
Even in Kentucky.
Even in Kentucky.
Even in Kentucky.
Wow.
Tell me, why are the allergies so bad in Kentucky? Is it the bluegrass or you guys are just allergic to everything? What's the deal? You said
What am I, a freaking scientist? Really? I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, you
I
gave
don't
me the
know.
piece of info. I never knew that allergies were predominant in Kentucky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're really bad. Really bad.
This is not a segue. This is a bad segue. In your career, you also did Beverly Hills 90210. With the recent passing of Sharon Doherty, what do you remember of Shannon?
Frank, this is really amazing. I've stayed in touch with, and not a lot, but Brian Austin Green and I speak every once in a while, who played my son, which is great. They do a podcast, a Beverly Hills 90210 podcast, with just great people. And I've done that maybe 3 times or 4 times. And so I've talked with Jenny Garth and Tori Spelling on that podcast. I hadn't spoken to Shannon in 25 years or 30 years. The last episode of that show was in 1999, was the last episode. And I hadn't seen her or spoken to her. And of course, I've known about everything she's been through. And I want to say about a month before she passed away, I was invited to they had a Comic-Con here in Lexington. And I was invited to that with Joe Pantoliano, by the way,
Joey
from
Pants.
Eddie and the Cruisers.
Joey Pants.
Joey Pants, who I hadn't seen in a long time either. And we had a great weekend. But Shannon was also at that Comic-Con. And when I heard that, it was just great. And I went over the first day to see her. And you know me, I'm going to get choked up about this. She looked horrible. She came over to me, and the hug lasted what seemed like an hour. And I spoke to her for a little while, and all 3 days I got to see her and just talk to her and hug her, really. And then she passed away right after that. And so, she's gone, of course, Luke, who passed away a few years ago now, which was devastating to all of us, too. Just devastating.
What are your happy memories of 90210?
Yes.
No, what are your happy memories of 90210?
My memories of that show, and also, obviously, again, it's amazing to me because I did a lot of work. But the two things that everybody remembers are Eddie and the Cruisers and 90210. 90210, which is the cultural phenomenon that it was. The whole time I was on that show, and I was on it for 9 years, from the first episode till the last that I did, were being on the set with all of them. Because people didn't realize what was going on kind of when it started. The first year that was on, it was the lowest rated TV show on television. Fox was not that big yet, and it wasn't even in a lot of places in the country. And then I think I might have even told you this story. The second year, they did reruns they did first run episodes during the summer instead of reruns, which is what every show did. And they sent Luke and Jason to do a personal appearance at a shopping center in Florida. And 15,000 people showed up.
Whoa.
And they realized, the geniuses at Fox, wait a minute, something's going on here. And that's really when they started to really push it. And so all those kids, I mean, Gabrielle Carteris, who I also saw, by the way, she was the oldest of all of them. Like Brian Austin Green, my son, I think had just turned 18. He might have even been younger than that when they started. They were all young, all of them. And then almost overnight, they were the biggest stars in the world. And I mean in the world, after 2 or 3 years. And so just being around them all the time, it's like, what analogy can I use? It would be like if I were Derek Jeter in the last year of my career, and I had a whole team full of 18-year-old rookies playing with me.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Is that weird that I compared myself to Derek Jeter?
Sure.
There. It's understandable.
It is.
Yeah.
It is for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody who's seen you play shortstop knows that is an apt comparison.
Yes, thank you. But that part of it to me was amazing. Going through the years, seeing how they changed, I loved, except for one of them, and I don't want to mention who it was, except for one of them, I loved being around all of them. And of course, the other part of it is the opportunities that became available to me because I was on that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to mention Tori Spelling's name?
I love Tori. Tori is the best.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Tori. And you know what? Shame on you, Frank, for trying to weasel that out.
So tell me the opportunities that came along because of it.
Let me.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Let me ask you. So, what did the actors show up for work on the stage in year one? What did they drive in year one, and what did they drive in year two?
Yeah, it's a good question, Frank, but I can't really remember, to be honest.
You mean it wasn't? There weren't Volkswagen Bugs and Kias in year one, and Mercedes and BMWs in year two?
Probably, or Lamborghinis or something, probably, and they earned it. When it's funny, I just told my son, one of my sons, Lee, we were talking about my acting career, because a friend of his, this YouTube stuff, a friend of his mentioned to him that he thought he saw something on YouTube of me with the guy from Modern Family, which they were too young to see. They watched a little of it
Was that Popeye?
with Ed O'Neill.
Yeah, with
and
Ed
it's
O'Neill,
this
yeah.
Popeye Doyle.
Popeye Doyle, this NBC Movie of the Week pilot that we did together. And he was asking me questions about when I started. And I told him that that was the first co-starring role I had where I made a lot of money. It was me and Ed. I had my own big trailer and all that stuff. And I said, when I got that job, I was driving. Here's going back to the point, Frank. I was driving in LA a 1964 Volvo that looked like a bathtub. It was one of those round cars. It was the only thing that I could afford. And here's a little tidbit on that. Boy, I'm full of this stuff. When I bought that car, the guy who sold it to me said to me, you're an actor. You'll love this. You know whose car this used to be? And I said, no. He said, Sam Peckinpah.
Wow.
I said, what? He said, I used to be his driver. This was Sam Peckinpah's car. He never wanted a limo. He never wanted anything. I used to drive him around in this car.
That's
So it was pretty cool.
Did it have bullet holes all over?
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's what I had. I remember this was amazing. The first new car that I bought, I actually had to wait until I got on Duet. And that was the very first new car that I bought, where I knew I was going to get a certain number of episodes and everything.
Did you do?
And
Did
I bought a Mazda RX-7
Oh.
convertible
Oh.
that had speakers in the headrest. So when the top was down, you could hear the music.
No wonder you can't
And
dance.
it was one of the great days of my life. I'm telling you.
Did you do duet with Mitchell?
I'm sorry?
Did you do duet with Mitchell?
No. That would have made sense. No, Duet was on Fox the first 3 years of Fox, and it was with, I was the star, with Mary Page Keller and Chris Lemon, Jack's son,
Wow.
and Allison LaPlaca and Jody Teelan. That was our cast, and it was a great sitcom. It really was. It
And
was great.
It was on for 3 years.
Yeah. I think we did 57 episodes, I think.
And you're a twin, obviously.
Yes.
I don't know whether our audience knows that, but you talked about Mitchell. You've worked with Mitchell. He's your looks exactly like you. And did you both play basketball for Brandeis?
No, we didn't. I don't know where you got the Brandeis story, Frank. This is how misinformation gets out.
No,
there.
no. I asked you, where did you play basketball?
Oh, okay.
In college. I thought it was Brandeis. I was one of those effete schools. But
you know what? You're right, because Mitchell and I went to Tufts.
Oh, Tufts, Brandeis,
Tufts.
same fucking thing.
Same, you're right. You're right.
In the Boston
Absolutely
area.
right.
So sue me
Yeah.
because I got Brandeis mixed up with Tufts.
Yes. No, it's understandable. It's not like getting Tufts mixed up with the University of Michigan or anything.
One person, if they watched me, would have called me on that mistake, and it would have been Mitchell.
Yeah. Oh, boy, would he. He would have. Boy, would he have.
Were you guys any good?
We played basketball, football, baseball in high school. We played freshman basketball at Tufts. And we were really good. We actually got a lot of scholarship offers. But we decided we wanted to go to, this is funny, actually. That's why I love talking to you guys on things like this, because it's stuff I don't think about at all. We actually were going to go to the University of Virginia, maybe. We found out that they still were wearing ties and jackets to class. This was in 1968. And then we went to Boston to look at schools. And we went to Harvard, and I think we even went to Brandeis, weirdly enough. And we went to Tufts, and while we were there, they were taking us around and showing us this new freshman dorm that they had just built. And they said, this is going to be a co-ed dorm next year.
Uh-huh.
Whoa.
And Mitchell and I both went, okay, here's where we're going, right here. This is it. And yeah, so we went to college together. We played ball 1 year, freshman year. We had a great freshman team. The varsity team sucked. So we dropped out, started doing drugs. We dropped out of basketball, and we would play in the gym pickup games 4 or 5 times a week that were better than the basketball that our varsity team was playing. And so we kept playing for the whole time we were there. It was great.
Did you and Mitchell ever think about splitting up when you went to college?
Again, that's a good question, Frankie. I imagine that we did. It just seemed to us that, we were pretty good friends our senior year in college, and, going, and the basketball actually had a part in the decision, because we would get there and it would be somebody that we had been playing with since we were born, basically. That had a little to do with it. I don't think we ever really thought about splitting up.
So when you're at your career, so diverse. I mean, the television, you did all the movies, Prince of the City. You did Saturday Night Live. Any lasting friendships from Saturday Night Live? Who were the good guys? Who were the pricks?
Boy, you guys are good. I don't have any lasting friendships, only because I don't see them. There were people I worked with that I absolutely loved that year that I was on. But I haven't stayed in touch with any of those people. I'm just trying to think. I really haven't stayed in touch with any of them. Of course, except Eddie Murphy was on that show, and he and I are best friends. Other than Eddie,
Well, that's the name I was looking for. I was looking for you to drop that one. This guy called Eddie Murphy. He wasn't bad.
Didn't Mitchell get you that job or get you the audition? Mitchell was writing on that show, or do I recall?
No, but once again, like Brandeis, you're close. You're around it, Frank. This is good. Mitchell. When we graduated from college, I immediately went back to New York and went to acting school. Mitchell wasn't really sure what he wanted to do, so he did a bunch of different jobs. He came to Louisville here in Kentucky for a while and worked in a bank. He did different things. We had a very close friend from the time we were in junior high school, really, named Alan Zweibel, who has become quite the big shot, but he became one of the writers on the original Saturday Night Live. He was a stand-up comedian who also wrote jokes for big-time comedians, Rodney Dangerfield and all these people. Alan became a writer on Saturday Night Live. And one day Mitchell went up there to see him and basically said, "Is there anything I can do here?" And so Alan talked to them, and they said, "Yeah, you can be a gopher if you want. You can do different things around here." And Mitchell said, "Okay." And from that, within, I think, about 2 years, he became an associate director of the show and the basically producer of, they did a once a week, I think, show of videos of Saturday Night Live. And he became the producer of that part of Saturday Night Live, which was pretty big. And so I used to go up when he was with the show. I would go up and visit him, and I'd visit Alan, and they all kind of knew me. And then when the first cast, when they all left and Lorne left, they say they fired him, but he left. And Gene Dumanian took over as the producer. Alan talked to me. He said, I can get you an audition for this if you'd like. And I said, that would be great. And I worked with Alan on an audition piece that we hoped would be funny. And I went in and did it, and they kind of knew me from being around there. And somehow I got the job. And that year was amazing. It was incredibly difficult because people hated us, because we replaced all the, Belushi and Aykroyd and all of them. But, there's nothing in the world of being an actor that's like doing something live in front of millions of people. And so I had the opportunity to do that. I did the last show that Billy Murray did, our last show that year, Billy Murray came back and hosted. I was real friendly with his brother, Brian Doyle Murray, because he was the writer on the show that I was on. I got to do a couple of great sketches with Billy. And again, it's great memories. And of course, I met Eddie and worked with Eddie on that show. And we ended up doing possibly the worst movie in the history of movies together a few years later, a movie called Best Defense.
Wow.
I thought it was interesting.
Joe Piscopo must have been in that movie.
No,
because if it was the worst movie ever made, Joe would have been in it.
Thank you. I didn't say that, but yes, thank you.
I thought it was interesting when he was talking about how his brother got a job as a producer without any training and any previous experience.
Oh, you thought that was funny?
Got jokes.
So it really doesn't take that much to be a producer, I would imagine. And no training, no experience.
You would be perfect. You talk about Alan Zweibel. Alan Zweibel became very good friends with Gilda Radner and wrote a book about her and stuff. But when he was running around, you talk about joke writers. The way they would make a living back then is they would write and pitch jokes to people like Rodney Dangerfield, and if they use one of their jokes, they get paid what, $25 or $15 or $25, or that's how they made a living.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
Alan. Go ahead, Billy.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Alan?
About 1970, 71, 72, I'm not sure of the date, but I went to see, at the bottom line, to see Lemmings, which was the show that was the precursor for Saturday Night Live. And
National
Lampoon's Lemmings. It was at the bottom line, and I'm sitting there, and maybe it held 400 people, the bottom line. And I'm watching the show, and Belushi and Aykroyd and Gilda Radner. I'm saying, I laughed my ass off. I said, these guys are going to be big comics. These guys are going to, you just knew. And then when Saturday Night Live came, it just blew open. So Murray, Eddie Murphy, when you were there, all that crew had when you first got on, all that crew had shipped out, not Eddie Murphy, but the original guys. But Radner was still on it, right?
No.
No?
No. None of them from the original show were on.
Wow.
They all left, all of them.
Wow.
And it was Charlie Rocket, who I loved, Denny Dillon, and Gail Mathias, and Ann Risley, Piscopo, and Eddie, and one of my favorite people.
Why did you shake his eyes? Why did you shake your eyes with Piscopo? You gave me the look.
Yeah, well, I'll give you that look too. I mean,
yeah.
I think,
and one of my favorite people in the world, Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah.
Who we've also lost fairly recently, but Gilbert made me laugh harder than anybody up there.
Harder than Joe?
Huh?
Harder than Joe Piscopo?
So you want to see that face again?
Fill us in. What the hell's the story with Joe Piscopo? Why is he such an asshole? What's the deal? You guys are both shaking your eyes.
He just was
hard to work with. He was a prick. He was like full of himself.
He was. Let's put it this way. I wouldn't turn my back on him.
Wow.
Let's put it that way.
Wow.
There were stories floating around, which I found out later were true, that he would go sit with the executives at NBC. And I should remember the guy's name at NBC who were kind of overseeing this at Saturday Night Live, and just tell them things that were not true going on up in the offices and different things. I never trusted him. I mean, and I wasn't the only one.
He was running for senator or something in New Jersey or like a couple of years ago, and doing Frank Sinatra impersonations. Even in Jersey, Frank Sinatra impersonations are getting old.
Yes,
I remember when he used to sing like songs like "Stairway to Heaven" and pretend it was Sinatra singing it and stuff like that. What was your experience with him? You seem like you don't care for me. Did you have personal experiences with him?
My friend Jay Thomas knew him fairly well, so I got to be around him, and I just really
he was a real
didn't like him just from being around him.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
he was impressed by himself.
that's a good way to put it, Frank. But Gilbert, this is great. Gilbert was like a little puppy dog. He was very shy, and he would hang around with Piscopo and Eddie. And when he was by himself, though, for example, I don't know why this one time has always stood out in my memory. And this was 1981, I think, or 82. I went into the men's room, and I'm standing at the urinal, and Gilbert walked in, and he stood next to me. And I looked at him and I said, "Hello, Gilbert." And he looked at me and nodded. And then out of nowhere, stream of consciousness, he goes, "So an elephant is walking down the side." And proceeds for 5 minutes to go off on this, whatever it was in his head. And I was dying laughing.
Wow.
He was so brilliant and funny. And he was just amazing. And it always made me feel good later on that finally people actually got to know who he was. And he was always one of a kind, that's for sure. But he was a wonderful guy, too.
Was his stage voice like his voice, or did he exaggerate that for the stage? I mean,
He exaggerated it a little bit, but that's pretty much how he spoke.
Right.
I mean, he was just when we say unique, we know that means there's one of them. He was very unique, but a wonderful guy.
Wow. So
cool story.
At one time, college basketball season is approaching us, or we're right in it now. And you went to Duke. You were working in North Carolina. You became very close with Mike Krzyzewski for 8 to 10 years. You worked with a really great play-by-play guy by the name of Bob Harris, who, again, recently passed away. I want to ask you, does Mike Krzyzewski still color his hair?
First of all, I can't believe you of all people, Billy. How do you do this? How do you work with him all the time?
It's the money.
He didn't used to be like this, Frank. He more than anybody.
He's been taught
should know. Hey, if I knew the answer, I would never tell you.
Oh, you know the answer. You know the answer.
He actually doesn't. Here's the thing.
Neither does Nick Saban. Neither does Belichick.
Neither does Donald Trump.
Let me explain something.
Neither does Donald Trump.
Frank, look.
Yeah.
See this here? Very, very little gray, right?
Yeah.
I have very little gray. I have never colored my hair. My mom, when she was 90, had very little gray hair.
Yeah, well,
there are some people that I played a scientist one time on TV. I could explain to you the genetics part of this.
Yeah.
God, Billy.
Take your hat off.
Michael Jordan doesn't have gray hair.
Take your hat off. We'll see genetics.
You're not the boss of me.
We'll see genetics at work.
Lots of hats. Matty, keep buying the hats, Matty. That's what I do. Keep buying the hats.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
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 Yankees. How can you root for the Yankees? It's unbelievable.
So again, what are you doing these days, Matthew?
Well, I'm on my show. This is hard to believe, my 15th year of doing a daily radio sports show on ESPN here in Lexington called Matthew and Jimmy. I work with a great guy named Jimmy Phillips. And we have a couple hours a day where we fool around and talk about sports and whatever else I want to talk about, because when you have a show named Matthew and Jimmy, you get to talk about whatever you want to talk about. So that part of it is fun.
It's a radio show, correct?
Yes.
Because I think we were on it once. Don't you, Billy? Once, 15 years.
Yes, I remember.
15 years
we were
times
Yeah.
3 hours a day, and we've been on it once for 20 minutes. But
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Frank.
But he told me it was going to be a breakthrough.
I had you guys on.
as mercy guests.
I had you guys on because I was new here and I didn't know anybody. Now that I know a lot of people, I mean, what's the point?
Exactly right.
And you do a golf show also, don't you, on Saturdays?
On Sunday mornings, that's correct. Right now I'm on hiatus with my golf show. Every year I take from the middle of October until January off because there's really not that much going on, and I'm old and I get exhausted. So, I can't do that much anymore.
But November, you're going to miss, I think it's November or December. It's coming up, the big Bryson Brooks Koepka versus Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy showdown, aren't you?
Rory McIlroy?
Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy.
That's so good.
Have you heard of it? I mean,
here's the thing. You're right. You're right. It's called The Match, and it's Koepka and Rory and the guy whose name I won't say. I call him the Bulk or Biceps. And I am 1,000% against this whole live golf thing. I always have been.
Why?
What do you mean live
It's
golf?
not.
Please stay out of this.
It's a joke to me.
Billy, stay out of this.
What is?
Yeah, Billy. Forget it, Billy.
So were you against the AFL? You were not a Jets fan?
No.
Well,
but
is it,
Frank,
except for the source of the funds, which
that's number one.
Okay.
But it's even more than that. That these guys, and again, there are only 2 or 3 of the actual golfers that I can't stand.
Yeah.
Because of this.
And they're all
the rest
in live
of
golf.
them.
And they're all in live golf. The 3 that you can't stand are all in live golf.
Yeah, no, I'm saying 3 of the live golfers that I can't stand. Most of the other ones I have no problem with because they're not going to have the kind of careers and make the kind of money that when somebody walks up to you and says, I'll give you $50 million to play golf in this league, that wouldn't take it. I understand that. The guys I don't care for in this, guys like Mickelson, guys like Biceps, guys like another guy, I won't mention his name. I call him the cheater.
Patrick Reed.
Yes. All these guys are now trying to get back into the PGA Tour. All of them. They knew what they signed up for when they left.
So you were against the ABA?
No, because that's the same thing, Frank. That was just 2 versions of basketball.
Well, isn't this 2 versions of golf with the exception of the source of the funds?
No, it's not. They're all paid before they hit the ball.
Matthew.
Yes.
Settle down.
No, keep going. Come on, let him have it.
You're going to start
I'm sorry. This is a real hot button issue with
you're going to start foaming at the mouth. And we already have enough of
I
that.
am. Am I drooling? Can you see it? Okay. Here, you're right.
And
here we go. This is not golf, Frank. The only thing about this that's golf is they have clubs and a golf ball, and they're on a golf course. It is not golf when you're talking about 54 holes, no cut. They all have their money up front, and it's a scramble, Frank.
Wow.
You've played in enough celebrity golf tournaments, and I know that for a fact, where you know what a scramble is.
It's not a scramble.
Excuse me?
It's not a scramble. They all play their best balls for 54 holes. They play their own
It's a
balls.
scramble because they're, Frank, it's a scramble because they start on different tees, all of them,
That's
1 through 18.
No, that's not a scramble. That's a shotgun start.
I mean a shotgun start.
Oh,
Sorry, you're right. See, you got me so upset that I don't even know what I'm talking about.
that's okay. You went to Brandeis.
Oh, Mike is on it today.
Anyway, I don't like live golf. I never will. And as a matter of fact, I've pretty much had it with the rest of golf too, the PGA Tour. I've had it with all of them. All of them. They can do whatever they want. I love the LPGA, and I love amateur golf, and I love the DP World Tour, the over in Europe, and that I love. I'll watch. I don't care about the PGA Tour anymore. I don't care. What else you want to know?
Well, since we got your blood boiling, what else don't you care about? Tell me what else you
I could go on about that a lot.
Why don't
but
you?
I'm not going to.
What about the What about the big orange pumpkin who's up for election this week?
Yeah, see, I can't do this. I can't talk about that. Sorry.
Keep your blood pressure down. That's right. Keep your blood pressure down.
How about
live golf and not in this order? Live golf and that it's a miracle. Thank God my heart. I had a heart attack 13 years ago now. Thank God I just had all my tests done and my heart is great, or else it would have exploded on your show here.
we would have to clean it off the screen. What else do you want to talk to him about?
I know I'm not supposed to talk golf, but since we're on the subject, I was watching. My son turned me on to this YouTube channel. They got these YouTube golfers. I'm sure you're familiar with it. These guys that play golf on YouTube. They got 2 million.
Yeah,
yes.
Biceps is the biggest. Golf star.
But let me tell you.
Yeah, I don't think he's talking about biceps.
No, I will. That actually was Bryson. But here's what happened. There's this guy, Grant something or other, right? The guy's about a 2 handicap, young kid. He looks like a swimmer. Hits the ball 300 straight all the time, right? I'm watching this kid short game. Watch it. It's fun to watch him play golf. Very affable. So he plays Bryson DeChambeau, right? And he's got to get a spot, of course, because he's playing, pro. I'm thinking this kid's a great golfer. He takes Bryson. He gives him 3 clubs, a putter, a 7-iron, and a driver, and he beats him. DeChambeau beats this guy, right? Then he says, I tell you what I'll do. He says, this time you're going to play me. He gets a child's set of clubs. The driver's about 3 feet. And I swear to God, he beats him with the child's set of club, right? And I'm thinking this guy's an amazing golfer. And I'm watching. This is like incredible. So now the final kicker. Here's the kicker. Third time he plays him, he says, you got to play me lefty. So you're going to shoot lefty. And DeChambeau plays lefty. The guy, Grant, gives him 5 strokes. And I swear to God, he goes out there, he says, I've never played lefty before. He goes to the range, he hits about 4 shots with a 7-iron, 4 shots with a driver. The guy goes out there, he's hitting a 320 lefty. I mean, I was like, the next time he's going to make a play with 1 leg. I mean, what the hell do you do to it? I mean, it's amazing how much better the tour players are.
Correct.
Than even scratch golfers. It's mind-boggling.
I mean, Matthew will tell you, you see these guys like Tony Romo who say, I'm a scratch handicap.
Right.
He plays in a pro tournament. He shoots 82 on a good day.
Right.
So.
Right. Because the courses are that much tougher too, right? When the pros are coming, they grow the grass. They motor greens that are like marble. I mean, it's right. I mean, they make them like crazy. I mean,
Hey, Billy, it's called the rough.
yeah, the grass,
They grow the grass.
They go to grass, the rough, like, and then it's tiered to top it off. They make it, the further you get, it looks like a jungle. It's like in Vietnam, for Christ's sake.
All right. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Biceps. He's a fantastic talent. His mind is incredible. What he's done with physics and all of it. My beef with him is not about that. He has come. This whole thing with him now is one of the great rebranding jobs that have ever been done.
Tiger Woods is a pretty good rebranding job too. But go ahead. Tiger Woods is a pretty good rebranding job too. But go ahead.
Yes, that's true. But Bryce, there's no debating his talent. Here's another thing. I love this because I can curse. He's full of shit, Billy. If he tells you that he's never played golf lefty,
Right,
he's full of shit.
Gotcha, right. I thought
Okay.
that. Yeah, how do you do that?
I'm just saying.
This
I
guy's
don't care how good you are.
This guy hits the ball about 350, and the guy says to him, this guy Grant says to Bryson, Biceps, whatever you call him, he says to him, so what were you thinking about on that swing? He goes, I was thinking about the vapor content of the ball. I said, give me a fucking break. The vapor content. You got 350 things you're thinking about when you're trying to hit a fucking golf ball with vapor content.
Lord.
Get lost. Start counting the dimples. What are dimples? What do they call them? The apples, the dimples?
Dimples.
Dimples, that's right. That's good.
How many dimples on a golf ball, Matthew?
1,204.
Good guess. I know. How many stitches on a baseball?
Okay, I can't do this. This will tarnish my image. If I continue to lie about things.
108. 100. I thought you would know that one.
Is that true?
Yeah, 108.
Is there really 108?
Yes. Cough one more. Cough one more time. Matthew, you want to give me your
Nice to
lifesaver?
be on my last legs here, Frank.
I wish I could.
We got 3 guys that are on the last legs and 1 Derek. So
Well,
youth. Youth is wasted on the young, Derek.
oh boy, I got a question, Matthew. You used to be friends with Brian Doyle Murray.
Yes.
Can you give us like a good story? I knew him back in the day, back in the 90s. Can you give us one of the?
Wow.
I knew he was. Well, I'll just give us one of your best stories with him.
Well, I don't really have any individual stories.
Okay.
I loved working with him. He was one of the only people that I ever spent time with up on the 8th floor there, like at 2 a.m.
Right.
He would be up there, and some of the writers would be up there working late and everything. I used to go to Brian's office and sit on the couch and hang with him because I loved being around him. I mean, Brian, everybody in the world knows Billy and loves Billy and how funny he is, and they should.
Right.
But Brian was really, he was a character, and he was incredibly funny and bright. And I mean, imagine growing up in that family.
Yeah.
Billy always said their father was the funniest guy in that family. And I just loved being around Brian. I don't think I can't remember. And again, it would probably involve something illegal, so I wouldn't tell you about it.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
I've got one.
Yeah.
I've got a story
Oh,
about
okay.
Brian.
All right.
In 1991, we did a movie called Babe Ruth, and we cast Brian to be one of the main newspaper writer, covering Babe throughout his years with the Yankees. And he was terrific to work with. The movie starred Stephen Lang,
Babe Ruth.
Stephen Lang, and
Real good kid.
Neil McDonough, who's currently on a Stallone show, and we produced a set of baseball cards. And I really always felt bad about this because I had to pick 8 things. Pete Rose played Ty Cobb. The late Pete Rose played Ty Cobb, and I had to produce a set of baseball cards for Topps to promote the show. And I didn't choose Brian. And Brian said to me, he said, I was really hurt
Wow.
that you didn't use me, and I felt bad for him because he was a sweet, sensitive.
No.
He was a sweet, sensitive soul, as is his brother Joel, who I've known for years.
Yeah.
For years. Joel starred opposite Jay Thomas in one of those shows. I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Derek, how did you come into the path with Brian? How do you know?
Brian worked on a movie called Cabin Boy in Santa Clarita, which actually I think you guys shot some of 90210. And I was a driver during this time in the early 90s, and I was his driver. So he lived in Malibu at the time, and I picked him up every day at like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. And through that driving, obviously we became friends because I did that for like 6 months. So
he's a sweetheart.
Oh, he's a super nice guy. Like very, very down to earth. Huge drinker. In fact, the first time I ever had a hangover was with him. So,
Oh, what a sheltered life you must have lived! You didn't get your first hangover till you're old enough to drive.
Why do I think that Cabin Boy was the Billy O'Connell story?
Totally, it was.
Yeah, I remember the time my father first told me there was no Santa Claus. I tell you, I swear to God, I couldn't believe it. I was so distraught. I got into my car, I drove straight to a bar and got drunk.
Matthew, do you remember the first time you got drunk?
Actually, I do. It was my freshman year in college at Brandeis.
Come on.
Brandeis.
And
Come on.
no, seriously, I didn't drink at all in high school. I didn't do anything in high school. And this was right when it was Woodstock, basically. But I was a really good boy until I got to college. And one of the first Saturdays of the year, a bunch of us were going to the football game, such as it was at Tufts at the time. And we got, I just almost threw up in my mouth a little just thinking about this. We each bought a bottle of Boone's Farm wine.
Boone's Farm.
Strawberry Fields.
And ended up drinking the whole bottle at the game, and then spent the rest of, probably 12 hours throwing up.
Yeah.
And I didn't drink again for quite a while. It was brutal. That was my first time getting drunk, though. Billy.
Yeah, mine was freshman year in high school.
Yeah. Well, it was 18 to drink in New York.
Yeah, so you could drink at 16.
Yeah, I mean, we used to go to this bar, Adams. It was a real old dive bar. They used to check library cards. Yeah, I'm good.
So any final questions for Matthews?
I have one other question about Shannon Doherty. God bless the dead, as they say. So do you feel like, I also knew her as well, and I felt like she was misunderstood and misrepresented in the press. Do you think the same?
Here's what I always said about Shannon. What people never realized, and it wasn't made enough of, Shannon was supporting her family at the age of 12.
Right.
She was acting. Her mother, I think, owned a tiny little barber hair cutting place, beauty shop. Shannon, she had no childhood, basically. She was working and making money and supporting her family. And so she was never told no. Right. Nobody would ever tell her no because she was pretty powerful for a kid. And so all of a sudden she gets to be 18 and 19 and 20. And she's now on this biggest TV show in the world. And did she have some issues? Yes, like they all did, like most of us did. But I can tell you that she was always wonderful with me and with most people.
Yeah.
There were times when she would get a little out of hand. Nothing that a lot of actors in Hollywood haven't done repeatedly. And I agree with you. I always thought she was really misunderstood. I always loved her.
That brings me to the point of child actors. People say, I want to get my kid into acting. What would you tell me? I'd say, well, since you must really not like your kid,
Yeah.
Oh.
And if because if you want to get them into acting, you're an asshole. And
Right.
just you want to do that for yourself, not for your child.
Right.
And
Yeah. 1,000%.
let your if your child wants to act, let them go to school, let them be in school plays, let them learn a craft, let them learn
Right.
rejection at an age when they can maybe handle it a little better than they can handle rejection for a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old who goes and auditions, maybe 100 times and gets said no. Let them act, and if they still want to act, let them act in college, and then try it. Try it for
Absolutely.
Try it for 5 or 10 years, and if you don't succeed, quit, because if it's the actor's life is really no life, unless you're a guy like Matthew Laurance, who's been successful in his career and had
And very lucky.
For a guy from Brandeis, you are indeed. Hey, let me ask you before
Lucky
I forget.
enough, my friend.
We need to ask something about Fredo. I mean, we should have.
Oh my
He's
God!
got to do Fredo.
oh,
He's got to do Fredo. He's got to do Fredo.
We got to get something back and forth.
We're going to ask.
Frank's the Godfather. He's Fredo.
No, he ain't Fredo. He is as far from Fredo as possible.
I was your brother, Mikey, and I was stepped over. I'm smart. I'm not dumb like everyone says. I'm smart, and I want respect.
That's the way Pop wanted it. That's the way Pop wanted it.
That's pretty funny.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff.
There's one thing I'm on my list I forgot to ask you about. 35 years after Eddie and the Cruisers, your favorite part, you did a sequel, Eddie Lives, didn't you? How was that experience?
The whole thing was great. At that time, it was 1989, I believe. So it was 6 years later. I was on Duet on the Fox network, and I was successful. I was making a good bit of money every week. And my agent called me and said, I just got a call. They're doing part 2 of Eddie and the Cruisers, and they want you to be in it. And I said, who's doing it? And they said, the Scotti brothers, who were this big record executive guys. Billy. They said, you're the only one other than Michael Pare. Yeah, those guys. Other than Michael Pare.
The garbage business too, right?
You're the only one from the original movie other than Michael that they want in it.
Right.
Wow.
And I thought, that's very nice of them. I said, do they have a script? She said, yeah, they're going to send it over to you. They sent me the script. I read it. It sucked. It was horrible. I mean, horrible. But they were shooting it in Montreal, which I loved that city. And my agent said to me, I'll never forget this day. Oh, I was working on Duet, and it was going to be just like 10 days of work, the way it was scheduled. So I would have to miss 2 weeks of Duet. And my agent called Susan Seeger and Ruth Bennett, the producers, explained it to them, and they worked it out so I would miss one episode of Duet, and they would talk about me that I was stuck in traffic the whole episode. And then we had the next week off, so I could do it. And my agent said, here's what we'll do, because you don't really want to do it because it's so bad. This is when you ask for a lot of money. And if they say yes, you do it. And if they say no, who cares? So never forget this. I said, how much should we ask for? And my agent said, 30 grand. I went, what? He said, 30 grand. I said, okay. He called me back 5 minutes later. He said, you're going to Montreal. I went, what? What? And so I went to Montreal, had an incredible time. Even though you can curse on your show, sometime I'll tell both of you some stories from Montreal that 2 weeks. And my stuff with Michael ended up being great. Our scenes were really good. But So that's the long answer to yes, I did do Eddie Part 2.
And the short question is the 2 weeks in Montreal that you had a great time. What was her name?
It wasn't her. It was
What was his name?
Their name.
Yes.
You
Oh,
asshole, you. Their name.
With that, we're going to say thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matty. Always good to see
It's
you,
always
brother.
great. Always a good hour.
I love you guys so much. I mean that. I love
You're
you.
the best, brother. You're the best.
Yeah.
See you
Fantastic.
soon.
Be well.
See you in church.
He's the best.
He's the best. A great interview. He's always funny, man. He's a funny guy.
Yep.
But what I took away from that, Derek, I don't know about you, but the thing I took away the most from that was the idea that with no experience and no training, you could be a producer.
Yeah, that was
I thought
excellent.
that was a very illuminating.
Yeah, it was.
It's worked for 45 years. And you too could be in business for 45 years knowing nothing.
No, nothing. Good. I like his style, Frankie boy. I like his style.
Well, I like you.
I was with him, this guy, with Shannon Doherty, too. I mean, how many celebrities were you fooling around with in the day? Was this all from the
Oh,
car?
I didn't fool around with her.
Was this all from the car or what?
Huh?
How did you meet Shannon Doherty? Was it just chauffeuring?
Yes. No, I was a production assistant on that movie show with her, and I think William Friedkin was the director. Actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exorcist man, William Friedkin, the man.
Yeah, I think so. So when the guy told the story last week about him having the low sugar and being pissed off, I think it was him. They came back from like a location shoot for the day, and he just went off on the whole staff, including Shannon Doherty, and in fact so much so that
And you had a consoler on the ride home?
No, she was a sweet girl. You know, I heard a lot of bad things about her leading up to that show, and my interaction with her was nothing like what I was told was going to happen with her at all. And but I also think that she didn't deal well with sort of like weak people. You know what I mean? And people that sort of bent the knee. And I'm just not that type of person.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got along great.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good. Nice to hear.
Yeah.
Nice to hear.
Yes, it is nice to hear.
Yeah.
Well, Billy,
I learned something more about Derek there today.
we did. We only learned about Derek what he wants us to know.
Very clandestine man.
We only learned about Derek what he wants
So
us to
for our
know.
audience out there, you want to know more questions? What's going on with Derek? Write in.
Right, askderek.com.
He worked for the British Secret Service at one time.
The Celts.
Dug for uranium.
Yeah.
Say goodnight, Billy.
Say goodnight. It's about time to shut Billy up. Say goodnight, everybody. Say goodnight.
What was that? You're ending the show like you started it.
Frank, I speak 7 languages, all at once.
Good night, folks.
Good night, folks.
Could you say a little something for us in Gaelic?
Gaelic. Hashtavel Labaslavia Kite Machine. Dig into?
Perfect.
That's Gaelic.